There is new research today. It comes to us from Toronto's Sick Kids Hospital, and it finds Canadian children are showing symptoms of depression at
90% of teens consume their alcohol by binge drinking, using it as a coping mechanism.
Rising anxiety and depression in our kids.
In someone's lifetime, they had 29% adults.
Let me go back to sleep. I don't care, bro. Bro, just let me sleep like 5 more minutes.
Bro, you set the fucking alarm for a reason, and you're just gonna sleep through it.
Yeah.
Like, you wanted to wake up at this time for a reason, so just wake your ass up.
Bro, just let me go back to bed.
And then what happens after that?
Keep sleeping.
Oh yeah, is that right?
Yeah,
All right, bro. Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna sleep. Oh yeah.
Listen, man, you know I want what's best for both of us, bro.
I want to go back to bed. I think it's best if I go back to bed. Just let me go back to sleep, bro. I didn't ask your ass to come in here and harass me, bro.
Whatever, bro.
Thank you, bro. God damn it, bro. I just gotta get up. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. But today, in this video, I'm gonna talk about. Hello.
I feel like I'm falling apart, and I feel nothing and everything at the same time. I'm so sad and anxious. I feel like nobody likes me, and that everyone would be fine if I wasn't around. It's shitty that I feel like this, and that other people have to deal with it. I have so much paranoia, and I have such bad trust issues. I don't feel like I'm mentally healthy enough to ever get better in the time that it matters for the people being around me. I feel so shitty but so great, so ugly but so beautiful, so caring but so neglectful. Not a word that I speak makes me feel like I'm not a burden. I've completely lost myself to whatever has happened to me. I'm back to feeling insane and anxious like I felt for a long time. I feel like nobody cares. I'm surrounded by people, but I feel so lonely. So, homeboy was going through it for a while there. But I'm doing fucking great now. So, in this video, I'm going to be going over 5 things that I've done that helped me get out of what I call depression, and hopefully they can help you out. I was diagnosed with depression when I was 12 years old. I remember going through counseling when I was 9, and I remember going in and off of medications that never really helped me out, but kind of just dulled the feelings of whatever I was going through. I would be late to class just about every day, and overall I was just miserable. I would live my life revolving around video games. Homeboy was going through it. So the first thing that I improved looking back into my depression curing journey was focusing really on the relationships that I had. So this could either include my friendships I had with people or my romantic relationships that I had with the woman I was with at the time. One of the worst things that spiraled me into the deepest areas of my depression, and probably the absolute worst part of my life, was a romantic relationship that I was in. There was another person in my life which I had allowed to take control of me. I would live my life trying to please them, not upsetting them, making them happy and comfortable, while I was trying to pull them out of their emotional turmoil. It drug me into the depression that she was suffering with, and it made me feel probably at the lowest that I've ever felt in my life. And this relationship is one that's super common amongst people, codependent relationship, which basically, is caused when you don't like yourself enough to think that you can live without the other person, and that's definitely what I struggled with. And because I felt this way, that other person was allowed to have control of my life, whether they meant to or didn't. And sometimes it's not fixable, so what you have to do is pull the plug on the relationship. And sometimes that's the best thing you can do, whether it's with friendships or romantic relationships. This allowed me to do things that would allow me to get a sense of self-worth, which I realized I had little of, which I feel like is a big thing with depression, is feeling like you're not worth anything. Is a feeling of low self-worth. And the thing that gave me the highest amount of self-worth, which leads me into the next thing, is fitness. Everyone's heard that a healthy body is a healthy mind, and there's no joke about that. Growing up, like I said, I was overweight and I was inactive. I thought that working out was something that I would never do, and that it was overrated. I just liked video games and porn, just like shit that was terrible for me, basically. The thing that's good about weightlifting or some sort of fitness is that it gives you a sort of level of direction. It allows you to see physical improvements in your body, which heightens your self-confidence and self-worth to higher levels than you would even believe if you're inactive. And it was just the number one catalyst of the upward spiral of my life that happened since my, lowest years of my life was fitness. And not to mention that weightlifting and fitness also compels you to eat better foods, because in order to get, muscle or whatever, you have to eat, a lot of protein and whole foods and healthy things that you don't typically eat when you're just sitting on the couch eating junk food. And that also makes you feel so much better. I learned from fitness that short-term gratification such as junk food, drugs, porn, whatever, will make you happy in the short term, but in the long term it'll make you depressed. And there's an opposite effect when it comes with fitness, is because it's unenjoyable, at least at first when you're doing fitness, to be doing it, but in the long term you'll be happy. And yeah, I mean, it provides long-term, I say, satisfaction rather than happiness, because I thought that I have about happiness is kind of that happiness is not a goal, but it's rather just a state that you're constantly in. I think if you think of, I need to be happy, then that implies that you are not happy, and that in turn makes you feel worse. So I try to not use the word happiness, but satisfaction is definitely what I would say. And with what I just said, it applies greatly to this next one, which is you got to fix your mindset. You got to get your mind right. One of the largest things that slides into the category of mindset, and I think is the most crucial of almost anything that I've mentioned thus far, is to do the hard shit without a second thought. After watching the video, I want you to try this method. My method, which I started, which got me out of my depression at first, was to just count to 3, think of the first thing that I could do, and then I would immediately do it. Be, on TikTok, watching some crappy TikTok. I don't know. I'd be on TikTok watching some crappy TikTok, and then I would just count to 3, and I'd think of the next thing I could do, and then I would immediately do it. And once you're off your bed doing something, you might as well finish the job, and then sooner or later your whole room's cleaned, And this also makes sure that your negative mind can't get in the way of what you need to do, because it doesn't focus on needing motivation to get shit done, but it focuses on discipline to get shit done. So it's like, I thought of this, so I have to just do it, rather than being like, I need to get motivated to do this. It's just like, just do it, And it's easier said than done at first, but the 1, 2, 3 method is something that saved my life, is because it also built trust into myself, because I was like, I can think of this and then I'll immediately do it. And so now when I set bigger and bigger goals, I have trust in myself that I can do it, just because of how many times I've immediately put into place these things, which allowed me to build trust in myself that I can do things. Another thing is changing the way that you view depression. Being diagnosed with depression and anxiety at such a young age made me feel like I had something wrong with me, when in reality I was just treating my life in general with a lack of respect, and I felt crappy because of it. I believe my mind wrapped, the diagnosis of depression and anxiety around my body like it was some warm blanket, and I kind of was just like, I would just throw up my hands whenever something bad would happen, or I'd feel a shitty certain way, and I'd be like, well, I guess this is life, which is not a good way to look at it. I think an important thing to do, especially considering depression, is to put blame onto yourself for the things that are happening to you. For example, with this relationship that I mentioned earlier, these thoughts were going through my head when I was with her, and shortly when I was after her, that I was worthless and I did terrible things and that I was a bad person, yada, yada, yada. And in order to get out of that mindset state, I had to slowly accept what happened to me. It's like, I got my heart broken, it sucks, but it's like, there's no point in grieving about it, It's like, it already happened, so the only thing you can do is move forward and try to be better, It doesn't matter if in the past you were a bad person, because now, you know, you have to make a change, you know, and you have to improve on the things that you think would make you a good person. And I think that's the most important thing to do, is to take the things that are coming towards you in stride, and to not think that, you know, this is life, you know, that the bad things happening to you are just happening to you because God hates you or life just sucks. It's to be like, oh, well, this happened to me because X, Y, and Z. And maybe something terrible happened to you that was completely unjust. Maybe someone killed your father for no reason. You know, obviously grieve him for a little bit, but it doesn't do you any good to just be like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, and to just grieve him forever, because you're just going to make yourself miserable. And so I think something that you need to do is you need to switch your stuff into depression or into acceptance. And also, with this acceptance thing, when you're constantly talking about these things that are upsetting you, it amplifies the situation to make it seem like it's way worse than it actually is. Again, mentioning that relationship that I go back to, I would constantly talk about how I thought I was done so dirty, and how it was completely unjust how the way I was treated. And it was like, not only could the people around me not help me with that, because I was just like trying to make sense of everything, but it didn't do me any justice to talk about it or even think about it. And, you know, it just kind of made me get into a victim mindset. And I think identifying as someone that has depression also puts you in this sort of victim-like mentality where you're just like, this is how life is, this is how it is. When in reality, in my case, you can get out of it just by doing things that are good for you rather than things that are bad for you. And I think that with the society that we're in today, depression is treated, you know, it's called a mental illness. Like you're sick, or how about depression is called a disorder. Like it's permanent. But the thing is not only does the word disorder have a negative connotation to it, thinking that whatever you are is out of order, because according to the statistic which I put earlier, it's fairly normal. But it also makes you feel worse because you think that there's something wrong with you. And in reality, I guarantee you, if you begin to stop doing things that are bad for you and you start doing things that are good for you, you will feel better, as hard as it is to begin doing that. And another thing I think that will really help you is to start journaling. Because once you're writing down all the crap you're thinking, like what I did in my journal earlier, you're able to not only look back down the road and be like, Christ, like, what the fuck was I on back then? But you can also make sense of your thoughts and see that your mind is polluted with these things that are just not good for it. And I think in having your thoughts out on paper rather than just ruminating in your mind, you're able to see almost a way to turn it into something better by just being like, well, that's fucked up, you know? And I think also analyzing how you interpret situations that you encounter can allow you to improve yourself as well. You know, like if you flipped out on your friend for saying something and you just acted completely wrong, you're able to look back and be like, oh yeah, like, you know, this is how I can change this. The fourth one is cutting out bad habits. They say that habits will determine your future, and I can't agree more. And this one's pretty self-explanatory. When I was younger, I was addicted to weed. I was also addicted to video games, but later after that, I was addicted to weed. Whenever I'd smoke weed, I felt good for a little bit, but then after, when I was sober, I felt even worse than before I smoked weed, which prompted me to smoke more. And I think that most addictions and habits just stem from bad feelings, whether it's vaping, drinking, at least drinking excessively. Some people just like the taste. You know, smoking weed, doing coke, things like that. It stems from these bad feelings in your head. And I thoroughly believe from personal experience that addiction and depression have a strong correlation. And this can be backed with evidence. According to Psy.com, which says that the relationship between the two disorders is bidirectional, meaning that people who misuse substances are more likely to suffer from depression and vice versa. People who are depressed may drink or use drugs to lift their mood or escape from feelings or from despair. So basically, when you're indulging in these bad habits, you're going to make things worse. And it doesn't help you to have these bad habits. It just makes your life more miserable in the long run. And another bad habit that I would also strongly recommend, especially if you're going through a depressive episode right now, is to delete social media. It makes you subconsciously compare yourself to them, to be like, oh, my life's not going as good as theirs. Or you can compare yourself to them and be like, oh, their life is going way worse than mine. And that's not a good thought to have either. It's not good to make comparisons to other people, because not only whatever people are posting is completely false, either way, I think that, it's not good. And in the absence of social media, I've been able to build myself up a lot more, feel a lot more confident in myself. I've been able to build my business. I've been able to build my YouTube channel. I've been able to build my body. I've been able to build my relationships up. And I've received a greater sense of purpose because of that, which I think is one of the biggest things with depression, is that you feel like you're going nowhere and you have no purpose and life is just meaningless. But, in the absence of these things, you kind of get bored and you can decide of what shit you should do, rather than just scrolling endlessly on stuff that just, drains you in the long run. I also think that social media makes your worldview way larger than it needs to be, because, I noticed that in the absence of social media, all these people that I was Snapchatting and sending these pointless photos to back and forth, they don't reach out to me. A lot of them don't even have my number. And it's just like, why even speak to these people or snap them photos of the wall or whatever if you don't have any relations to them? It's just like, you just like enjoy getting attention. And I don't think that's a healthy thing to have either. And so, in the absence of Snapchat, I've also felt a lot better, because it's allowed me to focus on texting my friends and family members that matter to me, rather than just these random people who I think are kind of cool, or these random girls who I think I might have a chance with. It's just, And the last thing, which allowed me to get further out of my depression. At this point, doing all this stuff, I'm pretty much good. But it's to build good distractions. Another big thing that helped me get away from depression's grasp was simply just keeping myself busy with healthy distractions, which I'm just going to call habits. Healthy habits allow me to think of things other than the fact of how depressed I was. And it allowed me to just, again, have a greater sense of purpose to do the things that I need to do. And the main thing that gave my life the most amount of direction was building these good habits. It made me feel proud about myself when I complete all my habits in the day. And it made me excited to live another day. And it also allowed me to become closer to the person that I wanted to be in a shorter amount of time than I expected. And yeah, if you're actually serious about getting over your feelings of dread, or serious about starting the life that you want to live, or to even improve the great life that you're already living, you have to do this. So I want you to first get out a piece of paper and a pencil. I'll give you a second to get it out. And I want you to imagine that there's a magic genie in your room. Maybe he's a dude from Aladdin. Maybe he's blue. Maybe he's just some Middle Eastern dude. Who knows? But you got unlimited wishes, right? And so I want you to write down every wish that you would make. And let's say you got 30 seconds. Think of the biggest wishes you have. You got 20 seconds. I ain't gonna wait that long. So yeah, write down your wishes you got to that genie. I'll give you a sec. Now I want you to interpret those things that you wrote down. Maybe you said that you wanted to have a six pack. Maybe you want to have a fat booty. Maybe you wanted to be 6'3". He can't do that for you. He's a magic genie, but he can't make you 6'3". Sorry, bro. Maybe, you know, maybe you want to have a nice car. Maybe you want to have a nice house. Maybe you want to buy your mom a Mercedes Benz. Well, that genie don't exist. Obviously, he's in your imagination. But with whatever you envisioned, I want you to think of ways that you can achieve whatever you wished for. So if you wanted to get that fat booty and that six pack, I want you to make a habit of going to the gym. I want you to look into what it takes to get a six pack and get a fat booty. So you need to make a habit of going to the gym like 3 times a week. Maybe you wanted to buy your mom a Benz. You need to make a habit of learning about money and getting your money up. If you wanted to be 6'3", I mean, hell, maybe you can add, like, break your legs and add a couple inches, but that's probably expensive. So again, you gotta get your money up. But the point is like, if you set these habits in place each day or each week, you'll be able to become the person that you want to be faster than you could imagine. And it goes from a point of being like, oh, I can't do anything, I'm never gonna amount to anything, to being like, first off, it doesn't matter if you don't amount to anything, because life is just life. We're all just humans. But second of all, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve, because no one is inherently better or worse than anyone. And obviously there's a little bit of privilege that goes into it. But if you've got a device that can watch this video, then you've got the privilege to make $1 million. You just don't know how to do it yet. So you got to learn. And maybe if you just want to have a better relationship with your mom, you just need to make a habit of taking her out to dinner once a week. It's just these simple habits and the things that you do every day is what will make or break you. And so if you're smoking weed every day, eating junk food every day, you're going to turn into a lard ass. And if you're working out, running every day, you know, working every day towards something, towards a goal, towards anything, towards building yourself up, then you're going to be what you wish that genie for in a shorter amount of time than you would imagine. That's why my YouTube channel has gotten better with every video I've made. That's why my body that I'm building has gotten better every time I've gone to the gym. And that's why my business that I'm building has gotten more successful. It's just because I make a habit of doing it every day to make it better. It's just like, it's exponential. You just got to keep doing it until you can reach that curve. But because you watched for so long, I'm going to be going over the habits that I make. So first off, I got a habit tracking app. This is what it looks like. It's just called Habit. I changed it to green because I like green. And my habits that I keep every day are to rise before 6:30, get 8 hours of sleep, take a cold shower. It increases your dopamine by 200%, and you just doing hard shit that you don't want to do makes your willpower a little stronger. I check my weight to see if the cut's going well. I dress well because, you know, you gotta look baller. Even if I'm working at home, I'm dressed nicely, just because, you know, it just makes me work how someone who dresses well would work. Just a thought. I set daily goals. I create content for 2 hours in the day. I meditate for 20 minutes. I take supplements. This is just in the morning. I lift. I do cardio. I try to listen more, and I try to talk less. I drink a gallon of water a day. I try to meet my protein requirement. I try to eat below my calories because I'm cutting. I try to do a PM meditation, and then I do a journal where I brain dump, and I have a gratitude journal. I read. I complete my daily goals, and then each day I play guitar and do Duolingo because I'm trying to go to Spanish and be a mariachi and be in a mariachi band. Did I say I was trying to go to Spanish? Because I'm trying to go to Mexico and be in a mariachi band. Thank you for watching. I hope that some of these tips helps you. I know it was a bit coagulated, but I'm going to try to edit it down to make it a little more understandable. And yeah, if you found some value from this video, if you could pay it forward, that would be awesome. But otherwise, I hope that you can feel better about your life, whether you're depressed or not, with some of these tips that I just showed you. So have a good one. I appreciate you.